mentality I hear a lot is, oh, the hatches aren't what they used to be, and fishing's no good anymore because the hatches aren't there, and there's a long list of things that I hear about all the time. So we've done some new analysis. Some of you may not know, some of you do know that we have 6 aquatic macroinvertebrates. That's a fancy name for all the little critters that live on the bottom, insects and other stuff. 6 sites throughout the watershed, from Flat Rock all the way down to the St. Anthony, the cemetery area, which is downstream of St. Anthony. So we have most of the watershed covered. We sample them each March under the direction of Brett Marshall, who's in the center of this photo with Melissa, collecting invertebrates. Brett's going to be on a panel at the end of July with John McDaniel, Mike Lawson, talking about hatches. And to date, I had 45 unique data points when I did the analysis. We don't have this year's data in hand, but each of our sites is paired with a water quality sonde and a stream flow gauge, and that allowed us to analyze the effects on invertebrates of stream flow, temperature, sediment, and conductivity. Conductivity is a measure of electrical conductance in the water, and actually is sort of a surrogate for dissolved solids in the water, which is kind of an indicator of overall nutrient availability and things like that. I presented this this research to a professional society meeting here a few weeks ago, and so the photo, first of all, this is what we come for, right? There's a blanket hat and mayfly hatch on the Henry's Fork. This was not from 1984. This was taken last October the 1st. We still get blanket hatches on the Henry's Fork. There's no question about that. One thing we found is that the invertebrate community is good to excellent at all locations. Let me give you an example. One of the measures we used is called the percent mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies. Literally, you look at how many critters are there and what fraction of them are mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies. That's not only interesting if you're an angler, but it's actually an ecological metric of overall health of the aquatic system. Over all sites, all years, including St. Anthony, where the water temperature can be 80 degrees, after a couple of really dry years, that's in our data set, even with that averaged in, our average percent mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies is 55%. Okay, let me give you some context. Bighorn River, famous trout river, and a river on which this same kind of research is being done, average 33%. Upper Missouri, they have a great watershed organization up there, do the same thing, 40%. Henry's Fork, 55%. So, and that's a teaser. I'll show you more in July. You have to come back to see the rest of it. Sediment and conductivity were not strong predictors. If anything, the years we saw higher sediment concentrations, we actually saw higher abundances of all species and a more even distribution of invertebrates across species. Well, that's because in this river, most nutrients come with sediment, and that sediment is indicator of years of overall higher aquatic productivity. So sediment actually turned out to be sort of a positive indicator, not a negative one like a lot of people think. Stream flow, not that important. Nothing was consistent. Some insects prefer high flow, some low, but overall nothing really stood out. There was one variable that did, and that was maximum water temperature. That was the strongest predictor, and it went the way you thought. Warmer water equals worse insects, and especially lower numbers of the things we really care about, green drakes and flavs and PMDs and things like that. Maximum water temperature, by my calculation, has increased by 0.8 degrees Fahrenheit in the last 4 years. Remember I said that our water savings in Island Park has decreased outflow temperature from Island Park Dam by about, 3/4 of a degree. So maybe we've offset a little bit of climate change, but as soon as the river gets down to last chance, solar radiation just takes over whatever happens at the dam, and we have increased water temperatures. I calculate that that could explain about a 10 to 15% decline in desirable insects over the last 4 years. Can anglers detect that 10 to 15% decline? I don't know. I doubt it because the variability is high. However, the last bullet point is really important. We sample invertebrates on the stream bottom. Why do we do that? Because that's where they live 360 days a year. That's where trout spend 95% of their time feeding. Yes, we live for that. We live for that hatch. That's 5 days of that insect's life history that they spend as adults. And a hatch, from a fishing standpoint, you all know this, it has a lot of factors. Weather and time of day and whether you're there or not, whether the fish are there. I mean, a lot of stuff has to go right to have that Henry's Fork fishing experience. Stepping out of the science role for a second, I fished here for 47 years. I've experienced a lot of hatches in my day. This one was as good as any I've ever fished in those 47 years. But it was weird. It was at a time of day and a time of year and species that didn't make any sense. I'd never seen anything like this. And I thought about it. I fish in different places at different times of year, at different times of day than I did 40 years ago, and I still experience this. I think the insects are there. We know the biomass is phenomenal. We know the trout have tons to eat. We have way more food than we have trout, let's put it that way. Why? Fish need water. The bugs are doing just fine. The bugs seem to be adapting to the water temperature increase. We don't seem to be able to adapt as fast as the insects are.